Good afternoon. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the afternoon of Sunday, the 24th of August. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to shoot trading signals. Right. Okay, we had a very interesting week last week, and we had an indication from the Fed that that it was likely that we were going to see a reduction in interest rates next month, and that sent the market up. We had an inflection point. I was writing about it. I did a post about it, looking at the inflection point on crypto, but obviously it was an inflection point on equities as well, and we have broken up from it. Now, how serious is this break? Well, looking at the indices, we've got ES. We almost made it back to a retest of the high. SPX2, NDX, which had gone down the most. So in Q here, got back halfway or so back to a retest of the high. So those ones were relatively muted, but where we saw the real action was on RTY, where we made a significantly higher high, and we made a significantly higher high on Dow as well, which has been the one which is holding up best. Now, I was saying in the pre-market video on Friday morning that this might be a bull flag, and it was, and I was saying there was a possible bull flag obviously here as well. I think there might have no, there wasn't one on NQ, there wasn't one on ES, but there was one on DAX, which is also broken up. And we didn't have one here, but we did have a potential level top set up. We had a little level top breakdown here, which rejected back up into the high, and we've had a significant higher high. So we've made, in terms of the things I was expecting to get ticked off, we have made the retest of the June high on ESTX. We haven't made the retest of the July high on DAX yet. But the rest of it, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. All right. Right, looking at the hourly charts first. Okay, in terms of the four trend lines I've been looking at, SPX wasn't hit. We never confirmed this trend line here, so I'm wondering whether this might be resistance, and I've got that currently in about the 65.50 area, and I've got more to say about that, but I'll come back to it. We came very, very close to a retest of this high on Friday. Looking at Qs. We had hit this trend line. We'd established this as a new trend line that had been broken. This could still be topping out, and SPX could still very much be topping out. Although Qs, we do have, it's not obvious that we'd be forming a head and shoulder, right shoulder here. Possible, but not obvious. I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of the high. Where the action really happened, though, was on the other two. Now, on IWM, that's because it's seen as the most sensitive to interest rates. Although, to be honest, I'm going to be doing a post in the next couple of weeks talking about this, following up one I did in October. And the one in October, I was writing saying that if the Fed cut interest rates, the risk was that interest rates would just go up regardless of what the Fed said, because interest rates are actually based on 10 and 30-year yields. And of course, I was right. The Fed put down interest rates by half a point and half a percentage point, and I think the 10-year yield went up 1% from there. So, I mean, that was, would this actually be any more effective? I don't know. But the thing is, of course, there is a public perception that the interest rates are controlled by the Fed, and certainly Trump shares that conception, and that's what's pushing the market up here. I'm more skeptical, to be honest. But IWM, we went through, we hadn't quite reached this trend line, we've gone through it, but these are the two where I actually had alternate trend lines, and these are the ones I'm looking at here, and we haven't hit those yet. These could be bearish overthrows, of course, but I got to say, I'm wondering about follow through to the upside. All right, Dyer, we went through that trend line as well. Now, this was the only one that was actually based, this was the shallowest of the trend lines here, and I had two alternate trend lines here. This one's the best one, and again, not far above. I've got this up in about the 460 area, and I'm thinking that might be hit. No negative divergence as we were getting to the close on Friday. All right, let's have a look at those on the daily charts. Right, looking at ES and SPX, no current divergence, not setting up any divergence either, because we went below 50 on the RSI 14 and went actually down to the 30 level on the RSI 5. So we're not close to any sell signals. We would need to go significantly higher to generate any. Obviously pretty close to a retest of the high. We had been testing the daily middle band vigorously and rejected back higher. Looking at the Qs, well, SPX first. Nice rejection back over the daily middle band, which never significantly broke. So basically, that held the daily middle band, and we're back up, retesting the highs. Looking at the Qs, we broke back over the daily middle band, not by an awful lot, but by a couple of handles. 571.97 against the close of the daily middle band at 569.79. Nice break, and it's a rejection back higher after this had actually almost made it down. Well, it had made it down to almost 50 MA, but obviously it had made it below the daily middle band significantly. All right, let's look at Dyer. Now, Dyer, we had held the daily middle band, never quite made it to the test, and we've rejected back up higher. Obviously, I've drawn in this alternate trend line here, which I'm thinking may well be hit. We've still got an older weak RSI 14 sell signal fix, and actually we've got the same thing on IWM. So let's have a look at that. IWM, we had a nice daily middle band test and a very strong rejection higher, which took us over through the first trend line and almost to the second. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is that we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed here, but of course, a few weeks ago when we were back in May, I wrote a post talking about the possible IHS here and the implications if that broke up. This is the IHS. It's broken up and it's still got a target at a retest of this all-time high in December last year at 243.04. We've now made it back up to 235. That is pretty close. When I was writing about it, I think we were down here at about the 202 area. Now, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to make that. And that would mean that the others are going to go significantly higher as well. I was thinking that this was something we'd be doing in a couple of months into December, so it's going a bit earlier than I was expecting, but I am wondering about that. And I'm thinking one way or another, before this move ends to the upside, we're likely to hit that. So we shall see. Obviously, we haven't seen the big retracement that I was really looking for here, and we may be setting up new trend lines on IWM and Dyer. All right, looking at DAX. DAX looking really for a retest of this high here at 24.6K. We almost made it at 24.5. That could set up a weak RSI 5 sell signal, but nothing particularly significant. We've already got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. Looking at Nikkei. Nikkei, I've had a look at the structure here. This is actually a pretty nice looking rising wedge. That would be a bearish overthrow. I think this might be topping out short term. And we've actually got RSI 5 sell signals fixed and an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. And they're both full size ones. I'm thinking we may well be making a short term high here. And I think we may well have one close on the others as well. I'll be watching those two alternate trend lines when we get to those on IWM and Dyer. But here, this looks as though it's already turned. We shall see. All right, great. So let's move on and have a look at currencies. Okay, DX. I've got to say, we had a number of things suggesting this might continue higher, but obviously the Jackson Hole reaction was to go down. We wasn't really a well-formed, I hadn't drawn in the arrows for it. This is a possible asymmetric double bottom, but it's basically broken up and is rejecting back down to the high. And I don't think we quite made that, but we got very, very close and we might have made it. The thing to look at here is, of course, the rally didn't get over the right shoulder high on this head and shoulders. We still have an open head and shoulder target down at about the 96.8 area, and I'm still thinking we may well make that. We shall see. But I'll have a look at the bigger picture in that as well. Let's have a look at the other currency pairs. All right, euro. Euro, we had a nice looking little level top trying to break down here, and before I really had time to draw it in the arrows, we had rejected and gone back directly back up to the previous high. We've also got an IHS here. That has broken up with a target in basically at the 1.18 area, very close to a retest of this high, and I think it's a pretty good chance we're going back to it. GBP USD, this looks like a bull flag, although kind of a messy one. And this looks like it's breaking back up into a retest of this high. We tested the monthly pivot and it held it very well. All right, we had a decent looking double bottom breaking up on USD/JPY, and this was the most bullish thing I was looking at in terms of the dollar going up. This has basically rejected. We've not got back to the retest of this low here, which is at 146.2, but I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to make that. Looking at USD CAD, I drew in this trend line, which I thought we might be slightly overthrowing here, and we've seen a rejection. This could be the start of a large move down. So that's now leaning pretty bearish. Australian dollar has broken up a bit. Could this be a double bottom? No, it's too large. NZUSD. NZUSD is broken slightly over declining resistance here. Nothing in terms of a big bottoming pattern here, though. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Right, US dollar. US dollar, the main thing I'm looking at here is this is a very nice looking bear flag megaphone. It's a rising megaphone. We've got head and shoulders here, inverted head and shoulders here. That's broken up with a target in the 101.6 area, and that hasn't failed yet. 101.65 target, actually. That hasn't failed yet, but obviously you often see two patterns form at the same time, particularly when the first one is going to break. And I'm thinking this bear flag, well, the target would be a retest of this low here at 96.38. I think we might be about to go and do that. And it could be that a sustained breakdown here is going to kill off my bullish setup on the US dollar, which is, of course, this very nice bull flag and the test of the main rising megaphone support trend line. If that breaks down, it's not so serious if it breaks down below this trend line, because quite often you'd see a slight break like that before a topping process, which would often involve a retest of the high to set up a second high of a double top. But if we start breaking down seriously from this bull flag, then, well, obviously sometimes the bull flag is the topping pattern and it just breaks down rather than up. We will see how that goes. Obviously the same applies to the euro, where we've got a mirror bear flag, and the same applies to GBP USD, where we have a mirror bear flag. So watching those carefully, and I've got to say the administration isn't doing an awful lot to prop up the dollar, for sure. Nonetheless, it's a very nice setup to go back and see a retest of the high here on US dollar, and a setup this nice needs to be respected until it's just clearly broken. We've also got, obviously, an RSI 5 buy signal fixed here, a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed here on the dollar index, and these are nice confirmations of a move up. So I'm still thinking we may well see that move up. We will see. All right, looking at USD/JPY. Bigger picture, I think we're heading down towards a test of this rising support trend line here in about the 116 area. Shorter term, I think we could well see a retest of this high, but obviously to do that, we're going to need to get back over the monthly middle band currently at 140.40, and that's the main resistance, 150.40. The high this month so far was at 150.92. So we're failing it there at the moment. USD CAD. Nice looking double top here. Doesn't mean it's got to break down, but sooner or later, I'm thinking this may well break down. If so, this could be a big move. And of course, if we do see a breakdown on the dollar, chances are it will be a big move. The target for this flag would be in about the 80 area, which is all the way down here. And I'm thinking, as and when this breaks down, and looking at the much bigger picture, this is basically over the last 55 years. Looking at the much bigger picture, I'm thinking this entire structure here, from the 2008 lows, may well be a bear flag. And when we see a breakdown from this megaphone, the target may be a retest of the low here at 70.7. This is a very, very technical chart. You can see I've been watching this for a long time. You know, I drew that in at the time this broke up in 2014. It's I've got notes on here from 2012. You know, this is very technical, and the ideal way we would do this is retest this high here, set up a second high of a double top, and then break down. But I am thinking we might see, because in part this administration has not been very dollar positive. I'm thinking we may see a breakdown here, but it's not something we can assume. All right, looking at Australian dollar. Bigger picture here, I'm thinking we might be bottoming out. We've got a kind of a messy IHS mainly, but ideally we'd head back and retest this low. And if we see the dollar go down, that would take it up. But if we see the dollar do a big rally, then we could see that low retest. And that could be the second low of double bottom. So I'm quite liking that. We've got a declining resistance trend line here that hasn't broken, so we need to get over that a rally probably first, but we would see how that goes. NZ, we've actually been in this strange triangle which has been forming for about 5 years, and it's a descending triangle. Not actually that it leans somewhat to the up towards a breakup, and given that the bigger picture is probably dollar down, although it may not start for a couple of years, I'm thinking that actually is a pretty good fit. We will see, but at the moment we're basically trading between the low here at 0.55 and the high here at basically 61. So chances are, as and when that does a big break, it's going to break up. All right, let's have a look at bonds. All right, bear with me a second. Okay, ZB, I've been calling this as a likely bull flag forming, and it still looks like a bull flag, but we're back over the new weekly pivot, which is actually not far away from the old weekly pivot, and we've held the monthly pivot as support. I'm liking a move up here into this trendline resistance in the 115.22 area, and on a break up from there, I'd be looking for this retest of this high here, which I've got at about 116.04. Looking at ZN, this looked like a bear flag too, and quite a nice one, and that bull flag, and that bull flag has broken up. I'm looking for a retest of this high here, probably won't break over this trend line here, and then set up a second high of a double top, which I'm thinking we may well do on ZB, and then break down. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on those. Okay, looking at TYX, this looks like a consolidation triangle. Basically, we've been trading sideways since April. I would lean towards this being bullish and setting up a retest of this high here at 51.53. Bigger picture, as and when this current administration really drops the ball, which I think at this stage kind of is looking like a matter of time, I'm thinking we may well see a break up in bond yields. I've got a possible IHS here, setting up a retest of a move back up to the 61.8 retracement here in about the 93, 94 area, and I'm thinking that's got a decent chance of making target. We will see how that goes, and maybe they won't screw up completely, but I'm kind of leaning towards them doing that, and they're showing every sign that they're going to. TNX, I've got a similar IHS forming there too, but that's on the bigger picture. On the smaller picture, this looks like a bullish consolidation, possible triangle forming, and would generally be leading up towards a retest this high here at 49.97. That could, of course, be the second high of a double top and take us down before we do the larger move up, which I'm expecting to start in the next couple of years. All right, looking at TLT. I've got a pretty nice looking. We may see this IHS break down into a retest of the low here at 76.44, but this is a pretty nice looking IHS, which could break up. We will see how that goes. I think this would probably be, I wouldn't really be looking for a move back to a retest of these 2020 highs. Honestly, I'm not sure we're ever going to see those again. But we could see a bit of a break up and a bit of a rally here, although not with a huge amount of expectation of it making target. That target would be, just for information, in about the 120 area. So we would see back up to here, and that would be a retracement likely before it went down again. All right, looking at the short terms on TNX, no current signals. I've drawn in the possible triangle here. Not a lot to say about direction here. TLT, again, we're kind of between signals as well. We will see. We are breaking up slightly over what might be a bull flag here. I am thinking that bonds are leaning towards going up at least a bit next, and the bit after that, they're probably going to go down, and we're going to retest those highs on TNX and TYX. All right, let's have a look at oils. All right, well, this Friday wasn't an exciting day on oils, and this hasn't moved particularly. I'm planning to get a post out tonight, actually, so watch out for that. I'm going to be talking about the bigger picture on oil and where I'm seeing this going over the next 5 years or so. But in the meantime, And we've got a little IHS here, which is breaking up towards a target at about the 65.1 area. And I like that. I think that may well make target. In terms of heating oil, we're breaking slightly up over declining resistance. Could see a move up there too. We have little head and shoulders here, and we've already made target. The one which looks more bearish is RBOB, although that is trying to break over the monthly pivot, and if it successfully breaks over the monthly pivot and converts that to support, then we can go significantly higher. However, this looked an awful lot like a bear flag. It broke down and it hasn't made target at a retest of this low here, which I've got in about the 1.865 area. We never quite made it. We could be forming a larger flag and that could go significantly higher, but that is unfinished business below and needs to be resolved. Looking at NG, I've rolled this into October and I've got this beautiful falling wedge here, and actually it's really nice. It's really nice. Now, obviously, chances are we're not going to go much lower before we break up from that. Obviously, the breaking up process can take a while, but as I've been saying on some of the pre-market videos, we do have a seasonally strong period here where normally we would be, well, the futures are pricing in a rise between the October contract and about February contract of the starting at the next one of about 1.4. Now that's actually up 50% from these levels. That will be an awfully large following wind for any moves up. And even if it only goes up by 1.4, that would still be 50%. I'm thinking we may be in the process of making a low here. I'm thinking we obviously got an open target here at the wedge resistance, which is up in the 3.12 area. And I've got more to say about this on the bigger picture chart, but I'm thinking on the much bigger picture, we're probably going to see lower, but this seasonal move will tend to at least deliver something. At the very least, what it'll deliver is when we go into the next contract, which will be the November contract, the price that day, as we switch into the contracts, will go up by 0.4. It'll go up another buck on the next three changes. So we shall see. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Okay, looking at oil. Oil, the first thing to mention is that we've got a daily RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and that's one reason that I'm thinking a move up to 65 looks pretty good. Also, we've got a possible, we've got the daily middle band there, and we've got resistance not too far above at the 50 DMA at 66.6 as well. The furthest I'd be expecting this to get is probably the 200 DMA on 67.54, because I suspect we're going down afterwards. Where would we be going down to? Well, I think there's a pretty good argument for getting down into a retest this low here at 56.06. I'm liking that, and we will see how that goes. But on the much bigger picture, and this is what I'm going to be talking about on the post, on the much bigger picture, this is a falling wedge. It's broken up. I'm thinking we're either going to head back and retest this and test this wedge support, and in which case the wedge has expanded, or we come back and retest this low here, and that makes a second low of a double bottom, which on a sustained breakup would look for a target at about the 102 area. Now, I know that seems kind of high here, but obviously, we see these long moves here, and this looks like, at the moment, the end of a trend. And this is the trend down from 126.42 and ending currently basically, slightly more than half down at 56.06. I'm thinking this might well go a little lower. I think we're still forming an a double bottom here, but it could be an inverted head and shoulders. And looking at the weekly chart, you can see the inverted head and shoulders. I've drawn in the neckline here, and we could just break up from here, but at the moment, I'm not seeing the Trump is encouraging the Saudis to increase production, to depress prices, and that's the main reason we've actually come down from this latest high at 70.51. I'm thinking that may well just extend us down into a retest of the lows here. But if we broke up directly, then obviously this could happen faster. How well is this backed up on the other oils? Well, there's the falling wedge on heating oil, which has broken up and is bottoming out. And here is the falling wedge on gas oil, which is broken up and is bottoming out. I'm liking this. It looks good. I'm thinking there's a pretty good chance we're bottoming out here, and then we will start a new uptrend. Could this all break down? Yes, but normally it wouldn't. And really, we've had a big move down from this high, and I'm thinking it's time probably for another uptrend, even if it's only a rally which takes us back up, 50% or so, which on oil would be going back to, it's the 126 there. We got to 56.06, so that's basically 70 at 35. Well, that would get us back up into about the 91 area. That's, but I think 102, 103 isn't out of order either. But if we got up to 92, that would get us back up to here, and it retested this high here at 92.48. We'll see how that goes. But that might be the end of a short-term trend, but of course that's an IHS neckline as well, although slightly oversized maybe. No, not really. That would be at about the 50% fib, so we could do that, take a move down, and then possibly get an IHS which should take us all the way back to 126. All right, let's have a look at natural gas. Now, natural gas, we actually had a little bottom here that broke up. It's just possible we could be forming an IHS right shoulder at the moment, but honestly, I don't like the pattern. I think what we're doing is failing back into the lows here. And those lows, well, the retest of that low would actually be at 1.54. That looks pretty good. Does this look like a bear flag megaphone? Yes. But as I said, the fly in the soup here, the fly in the bear's soup here, is that we've got these oncoming months going into the winter, which are very seasonally strong, and we may well just head back up, maybe retest this high here. We will see, but we're going to see some move up over this period in all probability. Does that always happen? Well, you can see this period going up into, this is going up into the seasonally strong period here in natural gas in 2023. This is going up in the seasonally strong period in 2024. Here, we actually went down very heavily in this period, so that was an exception, although we did have a decent rally in that period. But generally speaking, in the closing months of the year, we will have a decent uptrend. It doesn't always happen, but it's pretty regular. We will see. But at the moment, the market has priced that in, and I'm thinking we may well see it. Looking at natural gas, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed. Mainly, we've been basically compressing as we have been heading down here. I'm thinking this is going to resolve into a breakup, and I'm wondering whether we're bottoming out now. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at precious metals. All right, look, gold. Now, gold had a pretty good day on Friday. I had this IHS. I was talking about it on the pre-market video, and it broke up. It's got a target in about 34-33 area, and I'm liking it to make that target. We will see. I would like to see it go on. We've got some unfinished business at a retest of the all-time high. It would be nice to knock that out of the way. Don't know if we're going to see that. I don't have a pattern directing that far. Looking at silver. Silver, we had what looked like a bull flag, and technically, I don't think it was a bull flag, but I was thinking we might see a retest of the high, and we have seen that. There's no strong reason for this to finish here. I'd quite like to see a retest of this high here at 39.9 area. We'll see. All right, looking at palladium. Nice looking falling wedge. That falling wedge is broken up. We've got a potential asymmetric double bottom here, or possible options for a head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders forming. I'm thinking we're bottoming out, and I'm thinking we're probably heading higher. On platinum, that's actually kind of pointing in the opposite direction. At the moment, we've got a double bottom which is broken up with targets above, but I've got to say, this looks like a really nice bear flag. Now, not all bear flags break down. But if it does break down, then we've got unfinished business here at a retest of this low here in the 1265 area. If it breaks up, then we can head up to make these targets, which I've got in about the 1410 to 1430 area. All right, looking at copper. Copper, again, we got a bear flag. Now we could be forming a larger bear flag. But this is a nice bear flag. We've got a 6-minute buy signal that's reached the possible near miss target. We've seen a rally back up to the new weekly pivot area. We've got unfinished business down at a retest of this low, and I've got that down at about the 4.325 area. I'm expecting to see that made likely in the next month or so. Possibly that could get delayed by making a larger flag. This was a very, very narrow bear flag channel, but nonetheless, we've got unfinished business down there, and I'm expecting to make it. I don't think, apart from anything else, the 50% tariffs on copper are going to be doing copper any favors. Okay, let's have a look at those on the big picture charts. Right, gold. Now, gold basically has been consolidating sideways for almost a year. We had a nice looking bull flag. It broke up. It's got a target to retest the all-time high of 3,500. And actually, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't made it yet. We could have been consolidating in a triangle here. It's not, I have to say, a great looking triangle, but it's not awful. And I'm thinking that may well be what we're looking at here. I'll just redraw that slightly so it looks more like a triangle. Because that, hang on. Okay, that looks pretty much like a triangle. If so, this would generally be a bullish triangle. Now, this isn't, that doesn't say it necessarily has to be. This could, for instance, turn into, break down, and then turn into some kind of bull flag. But really, I'm thinking this is a sideways consolidation, and it's likely to resolve bullishly into a retest of 3,500. So that is the obvious lean. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence. Often don't get any divergence, of course, when you're trading sideways in an increasingly narrow area. So we will see. Now, bigger picture, I am wondering if that might be the second high of a double top and setting up a larger retracement. Hang on, sorry, I'll just get rid of that trend line there. Sorry, I meant to leave that. All right, so we will see how that goes. Do we have more support in terms of a possible topping setup here? Yes, we do. On silver, we've reached a pretty decent looking resistance trend line. I was looking for this before, obviously, it was hit. We've gone over it slightly. But this is an obvious area where we could find resistance, see a big rally, possibly even reverse this trend line here in the 24 area currently, but where we could see a very decent rally form. We will see. We don't have any negative divergence here, but that's because we haven't retested the high. We get some very nice possible weekly RSI 5 sell signal if we retest the high. If we retest it in the right way, we might get a decent RSI 5 daily sell signal too. But at the moment, there's no sign of that. But obviously, if we go back up and retest this high, we could be setting up a very nice looking little double top to take us back to, let's say, the 33 area. Possibly set up a head and shoulders that could take us back into the 30 area. Both of these are reasonable targets. So we shall see. All right, looking at palladium. Palladium, overall, well, I'm wondering if this is a bear flag. We made some, we had these targets to the upside. We made the lower one pretty much. This isn't a great looking flag. We didn't quite make the obvious resistance trend line, but I'm still wondering if this might be a bear flag. But even then, we could see a bit of a rally. I'm not seeing a high retest really at the moment, but we'll see. Looking at platinum, again, we had a trend line. And a pretty decent looking trend line, and possibly a bear flag trend line. So I'm watching that with interest. No current negative divergence. If we have a look at the weekly chart, no divergence. But if we retest the high, which looks a long way away at the moment, but if we retest the high, we can set up some very nice weekly negative divergence. And on the daily chart, we've already got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and nothing on the upside. Short term, though, this looks like a bear flag, and I'm not leaning towards seeing a test of this high here at 1491.60. All right, looking at copper. Copper, we saw a nice high here. I was thinking a high in this range would be the obvious place. We've got, and I'm really expecting to see a retest this high here in the 4.2 area. When the bear flag makes target, that's where I'd be looking at it get it. In terms of the weekly chart, no current divergence. Daily chart, we had an RSI 14 signal, and that made target. All right, looking at GDX quickly. We've made it to this extension trend line up here. We've got a possible weak RSI 14 sell signal brewing on the weekly. Hitting some possible resistance here. Daily chart, week RSI 14 sell signal fixed an age ago. No divergence on the RSI 5. Hourly chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal break. But we've been heading higher. This is looking pretty good, and we've got over the we've actually managed to get over the 2011 high here at 58.93, which was a pretty significant milestone, given that we got all the way down to 11.33 in early 2016. All right, GDXJ. Not made it back to those halcyon days yet. The target would be at 133.81, and we've only made it back to 75 or so. But we haven't made it back to the alternate trend line yet. That trend line is only really if this is a bear flag forming, which obviously it need not be. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence there either. On the hourly chart, no current divergence there either. No obvious pattern here. Both of these could go higher, so we shall see. All right, moving on to commodities. Okay, let's have a look at coffee. Now, coffee, sorry, we had the IHS here, it broke up, it had a target in the 370 area. It has more than made that target. Now, we've had negative divergence here for a while, but we very, very, very nearly lost it on Friday. So either it's turning here, but if we have another day like the last few, then we're going to lose that negative divergence, and there will no longer be a sell signal growing. New weekly pivot is at 361.43. Obviously, backtest would be at 370. All right, looking at sugar. Sugar, this could still be an inverted head and shoulders, but really, I've said this before when we had the previous IHS, that could be forming. Really, if it's not going to break up in the next week, it's probably not going to break up, and we're left again with the likely retest of the low here down about the 1542 area. Looking at CC, this kind of looks like a bull flag forming. We're holding the monthly pivot at 75.66. If we lose that and that converts to resistance, then the obvious target would be a retest of this low here in the 6700 area. If we say a break up over the flag resistance, I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here in about the 88.50 area. Okay, let's have a look at CT. CT, we've got a nice looking little double bottom here that's broken up and has not been invalidated, with targets in about the 69.1 to 69.6 area. We've also got a shorter term little double bottom which is broken up with the target really at a retest this high here at 68.50. It's a bit oversized, but I'm still leaning towards this double bottom having some more upside, no current negative divergence. Lumber, I've been leaning towards seeing a rally here. I've just rolled this into the November contract, by the way. We've got a buy signal that's reached possible near miss target. I'm watching for either a retest of the low, so a small double bottom, or a test of this possible inverted head and shoulder neckline in the 653 area. I'm only looking for a rally here. I think bigger picture, the trend is probably down. Looking at wheat, nice looking falling wedge, broken up, and I'm looking for bottoming action here. We've got a weak 6-minute sell signal fix. I'm pretty sure on the daily chart we've got a daily RSI 5 buy signal fix. So I'm leaning towards seeing a significant reversal back up here. Looking at corn, possible IHS forming, possibly an asymmetric double bottom forming, but I'd be leaning towards it actually being an IHS already broken up. If it has, slightly uncertain as to where this is exactly in terms of a bottoming process. It could still be early on, and that's why it's not clear. Soy, saw a retest of this high. We've got some negative divergence on the daily chart, so I'll look at that. We've in the short term got a 60-minute sell signal fix, and this could be bottom. This could be topping action. If it continues higher, we've got an obvious target above up and a retest of this high here in the 107.5 area. All right, looking at soybean oil. Soybean oil, we had a nice looking double bottom here, and then that broke up. Then it rejected hard, but did not reach the low, and then it went up and made target. This was not a usual way of getting there, but nonetheless, it has made the target. So we had a double top here, that's made target. We had a double bottom here, that's made target. At the moment, waiting to see what's next. Looking at live cattle, continuing to go a little higher, no current negative divergence, nothing compelling saying this is about to reverse back down. And lean hogs, still wondering about a flag breaking down here with a retest of the low. Waiting to see. We shall see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on those. And on coffee, we've seen a hard break up over the monthly middle band, and it's a very hard break up. Really, on the bigger picture, I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here at 4.408. Could that be the second high of a double top? Yeah, although it might be a bit oversized. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence, looking kind of overbought on both the RSI 5 and the RSI 14. I've got this reading as a flag here. The next obvious target is the flag resistance, and a breakup from that gives a retest of the highs. Looking at sugar, we've still got this apocalypse scenario here with a breakdown in the 6.5 to 9 area. And I'm still wondering about that. We've got this nice looking falling wedge as well, and I'm leaning towards this breaking up. Looking at the daily chart, we've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed, and this could be a bear flag forming. All right, looking at cocoa. Cocoa, obviously, we're pretty extended by historical standards here, as we are on coffee. We've got a monthly RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got nothing on the weekly chart, sorry, daily chart. But if we retest this low at 72.08, we could be setting up the second low of a double bottom. Just after this IHS has failed with a target basically to retest this low. We could be setting up the second low of a double bottom, and we could at that stage also have positive divergence. I think we might be bottoming out here too short term. Looking at wheat, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and it's very nice. Didn't quite make the target at 495.50. I'm wondering if we could make that, but the main target I had was at 499, and we have already made that. We will see. Looking at corn, we've got a possible daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing, and we have a potential level bottom here, so I'm wondering about reversal on the daily chart. Sorry, that was on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing, and the RSI 5 buy signal has reached the possible near miss target. We're not close to the declining resistance, which is an area I'm watching here. I'd see that as a significant resistance break if we break up through it. I've got that at 404. Looking at soybeans. Soybeans, on the weekly chart, we have broken again through the falling wedge resistance. I'm still wondering about this flag setup here and a possible retest of the low at 936.06. We haven't seen that yet. It's not the only option for a bottoming pattern here, but it is the best one. I'm still wondering about a possible retest of that low. Looking at the daily chart, we've got a possible daily RSI 5 buy sell signal brewing. All right, looking at cotton. Cotton, we've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed on the weekly, and we are testing declining resistance on this big falling wedge and breaking it very slightly, but only very slightly at the moment. I'm liking the upside here, and if we can see a conviction break, we've already got a potential level bottom and a sustained break up over 73.5 area. Would be looking for a target in about the 89 to 90 area. Looking at lumber, no current divergence on the weekly chart. Still looks an awful lot like a bear flag. Within that bear flag, we've got a potential level top. If we see a sustained break below 537.54, we would be looking for a target which would be at about the 476 area. And I'm thinking that could well deliver. No, it wouldn't at 376 area, but that would get it pretty close to a retest this low here at 352.90. The daily chart, you can see there is a nice clear double top here, and it's nice. Short term, though, we've had a weak RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and we may be looking at a bit of a rally here. All right, lastly, crypto. Alrighty, we have now. I did a post on Friday morning, and I was talking about the possible inflection point here. Now, we didn't see an awful lot of exciting action on Bitcoin here, and here we've got a double top which has had broken down and could be failing. But I got to say, there was a lot of weakness at the close on the on Friday, so I'm wondering, and since then, so I'm wondering. Well, we haven't seen a firm breakup that is suggesting a retest of the high here. All right, looking at Solana. Solana, we were also in an inflection point. We were holding the daily middle band. Hang on. We were holding the daily middle band of support, and that obviously has broken back up, and we retested the high. So that we've got 209.89, we've got 211.94. So we did do a full retest of that high. This could be the second high of a double top, and it would be a lot more credible double top than this possible large one here was. So I am wondering about that, and direction is still uncertain. Ethereum. On the weekly chart, I was looking for a retest of 48.65.94, and we've seen it. That is a new all-time high on Ethereum, which was a key target here. But it also means that we had a piece of unfinished business above, and we don't have it anymore. We do have a weekly sell signal brewing here. Nothing at the moment on the daily apart from the weak RSI 14 sell signal that's already fixed, but we do have, of course, a potential level top here too. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this continue higher, but I am obviously weighing up other potential options. And it could be that we've got a topping setup here for a larger retracement. The main one I'm really concerned about here is Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's going to head down and make this target, then it's going to drag down the other two in all probability. And while we saw new highs on Ethereum and Solana, we didn't see anything of the kind on Bitcoin. So I'm still wondering about that. And actually, in terms of the daily middle band, which I've got at 116.647, we almost got up to that and then failed. This hasn't broken back over that yet. So we will see how that goes. And the 50 DMA in about the same area. So this isn't a breakup so far on Bitcoin. And while that remains the case, we've got a double top, which is broken down with a target in the 99 to 100 area. That could still make target. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday. Everyone take care and enjoy what's the rest of your weekend. All right, cheers.